Hey everyone, Eric Rios here. So glad you're back. We're going to talk today about a touchy subject, which I'm just going to share my story, some of what I've gone through in life in regards to suicide. It is a subject that is just horrible to have to deal with. If you've never dealt with it, I mean, it's something I would never wish upon anybody. I can tell you as a parent, we lost a son to suicide. You see what my shirt says, do not give into the war within and veteran suicide. I mean, this is supporting Till Valhalla, get my get Till Valhalla project. But my son was in the military for 7 years, and then he ended up taking his own life in 2019. And I can assure you one thing, there are ways to make your life better after the fact. I mean, does it ever go away? It never goes away. The thought of it never goes away. The idea of it never goes away. It's always going to be lingering in your mind. It's always going to be in a place to where you're just like, I can't replace him. I can't replace my child. I mean, your child is gone. Maybe it's a loved one, a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, an uncle, a cousin. So the one thing I learned to do, so I'm just going to share some things that I learned to do to help me cope and deal and be able to talk about this easily. I can talk to almost anybody about this on any given day, all because of a couple things that I've done. Number one thing I did is I did not resort to any alcohol or drugs or anything to curb the pain. Zero. I refused to allow myself to go down that path of using substances to make myself feel better just so I could deal with the pain of the loss of a child. My son was 26 years old, and it fucks you up. I mean, it fucks you up in ways you can't even imagine when you lose your child. My son was missing for 17 days before they found him in the mountains of Wyoming. Where he had shot himself. And then he was found by a couple of hunters that were out there hunting. So we may not have seen him for a long time, but we knew he was gone, and it was a long 17 days. It was a long fucking 17 days. And I mean, it was fucking hard. And I know people have endured much harder. And I met people who have endured much harder than what we endured. But one of the main things that I did was I did not resort to drugs, alcohol, or anything to make myself feel better. I learned to just walk through the pain. But something that I did use is I used tea, like chamomile teas, something like that. And chamomile tea took the edge off of the anxiety, the pain that I felt, and the anguish. It really just sort of leveled me out as a person. It leveled me out as a dad. Because the day I found out, I remember a police officer, came to our office because my son wasn't considered a missing person at that point, and then all my family showed up. Because I told him, I said, I don't want to hear any news until everybody's here. We can just tell it one time. Then of course we had hope. We had the hope that, okay, well, surely he didn't die. Surely they found him, and we're going to have some good news. And it wasn't good news. So as soon as he told me, I punched a window out of a vehicle. I mean, I needed to just release some energy. Was it the best choice? No, because it cost me like $300 to fix the window. So it wasn't the best choice. But the point is I needed to release some energy, and it really just, it was a start of just pure pain. So I used the chamomile tea as a way to just sort of curb the pain, curb the anxiety, curb the feelings. It really just sort of relaxed me, and it really helped me a ton. And I really use it over the next 6 months as I learned how to work through this. One of the first things I did, though, after my son had died, is I called my counselors. And I love going to counseling. I've always loved counseling because it's my place just to go dump all my shit out. Counseling to me is a great thing because I get to go dump my shit out with no judgment. And I just am 100% vocal when I go to counseling. So I called her. I said, hey, look, this is what just happened. What do I do? First thing she said to me, she said, Eric, you need to come together with your wife and your family. She said, I see more families torn apart during this time with the loss of a child than any other time. She said, you definitely need to come together right now. And that's what we did as a family. But it wasn't just us who came together. I sometimes start to cry, sorry. But it was our entire family's friends, all their friends. All my kids were teenagers at this point. All of their friends. They were what brought life to our family. They brought so much life to our family. Just seeing them there, they were at our house every day for the support. I could never say thank you enough to all of them. There's so many of them. I couldn't even list all their names who showed support, who walked with us, who was there every single day for our kids. They were there every single day for my wife, myself. It was a tough road. It really was. But support, getting support from family, from friends, that's going to be a key thing. So the one thing I learned though is this, is learn to talk about it. I immediately started therapy. I found a trauma therapist. I really needed some help because I was fucked up. I mean, I was fucked up. So I found a good trauma therapist, and I met with her twice a week for 6 straight months. But I was able to talk about this. But one thing we did though for military veterans is we went to a thing called TAPS, TAPS, which means Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors of Military Veterans. And we flew down to Dallas and they hosted us. It was a big event. And this was geared around military veterans committing suicide or just losing their lives in general. And other ways could be killed in war or just maybe passed away. But this one was more specifically geared towards suicide is what it was geared towards. So TAPS was tremendous for us, but we were 3 months into this and it was just, we were still just broken in ways you couldn't even imagine. It was the hardest weekend of probably my entire life. I remember we got there and I'm listening to the doctor talk, and the one thing he said that hit home so much with me was this. He said, I'm not here to make any of you feel better. I'm here to make you feel. I need you to feel the pain. I need you to feel it so you can heal from what's going on. You have to be able to feel the pain. So the one thing I always did my entire, most of my life is I've always learned to feel the pain and walk through that pain without adding any substances because it allowed me to feel that pain. But perspective changed as well for me while I was there. I met a father. This father had twin sons. He told me that one of his sons, they were both in the Marines. He said one of them had taken his life. He said, and then 4 years later, his other one took his life. And I thought, well, fuck, how in the hell did you deal with that? Is what I told him. I said, how did you even manage? Because I know how fucked up I am with just one kid taking his life. But when you have your only 2 children, and they were twins, it's just, he said, I learned to just trust God is what he told me. He said, I leaned on God. I leaned on my wife. I leaned on my church. I leaned on my family. And they came together as a whole. And that's what allowed them to heal. If I could ever encourage you to do any one thing, and that is to talk about it. Talk about it with your family. Talk about it with your friends. Find a good therapist to talk about. Because people will tell you some dumb shit, I promise you. People are going to say some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard, you'll ever hear in your entire life when it comes to you losing. And they have good intent, but you're like, fuck me. Why would you say something that's so stupid? We had a lady once tell me, she goes, I understand how you feel. I really do. I understand how you feel with losing a child. She goes, my son is gay. I'm thinking, you're fucking stupid. Your fucking son is gay. And you're comparing that to my son being committing suicide. I'm thinking to myself, like, you get to see your son. I'll take a gay son any day of the week over a dead son. I mean, I love my fucking kids. I don't care what they are, what they're not. I love my kids. But people say some of the dumbest shit. And you just learn to just push them away. They're not someone you want around you because they're going to say more dumb shit. You want those around you who's going to support you and help you grow mentally, because mentally it's going to challenge you in ways you can't even imagine. It's going to create frustrations, pain, but learn to feel that pain, learn to walk through the pain. And the quickest way I found to learn to walk through that pain is to talk about it. I started talking about it for every week, especially to a therapist. To a therapist, it really helped me to work through the pain, work through the anguish. And I just cried and I cried. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I just cried every day. I cried every single day, cried in the shower. I cried taking a crap. I mean, you just cry. It doesn't make it, you just cry everywhere. I mean, it's just but the point is it gives you the ability to just feel it. So we learned a valuable lesson there at TAPS. There is, a shirt I wear. It's called Remember the Dash. Remember, the dash means this, is that when you go to any cemetery, you typically have two things that you look for almost every single day when it comes to a gravestone. You're looking at the day they were born and the day they died. We always try to look at that. Oh, they lived a long life. Oh, they did this. Oh, they did that. And it makes you think about that. But the dash is what we want to focus on, is remembering their life they lived. No matter how long, no matter how short, we want to focus on the positive things about their life, because you can always find something negative. It's not worth it. Find positive things in their lives that you can focus on, you can remember, you can think about, you can laugh about. I mean, I can tell you some fucked up stories. I can tell you when my son was running down the street in a thong bikini in the middle of the day. I mean, I can tell you when he took a shit in a store's trash can and took off running out the door because he got it all over his pants because he had to go so bad, and ran out the door without his pants on. I mean, kids do some crazy things. So remember the dash. Remember all the fun things about your kid. Remember the hugs. Remember the kisses. My family, we were a phenomenally loving family. We were really close. So it was really challenging for us. But we don't always know what is causing someone pain. The doctor at TAPS told us, he says, look, he said, if you spend your time trying to figure this out, it'll drive you crazy. You're never going to know fully why somebody does what they do. You're just not going to know. My son told me, he said he wrote a letter. He wrote 6 letters. He wrote a letter to the first responders, and the first responders said it was the most compassionate suicide they've ever come on because of the letters. He apologized to them, telling them how sorry he was for the mess they're about to find, who he was, where he lives, where he got the firearm, and apologized and apologized and apologized. I mean, he wrote on his hand, he wrote, please forgive me, on his hand. He wrote on his pant leg, please forgive me. He wrote on his seat, please forgive me. We never knew he was depressed. In his letter to me, he wrote to me, he said, Dad, I've been depressed my whole life. As a person who's never been depressed, I had no idea what depression looked like. I'd never seen it before, didn't understand it. I would have never known what it looked like. But he seemed like a normal kid to me. He was always fun. He played football, played soccer, played all the sports. We had a great family life. We went on vacations. We did all the things that everybody would do. But then when I look back at pictures now, I can see the depression after understanding what it looked like. I can see in some pictures. But then again, I'm like, he was just a phenomenal kid. He's the most laid back, level-headed kid ever. But the point is that in the letter he wrote me, he said, Dad, don't ask what you could have done differently. He knew what I was going to ask. He knew all the fucking things I was going to ask, as like, why? What could I have done? What was that? What did I do wrong? Because I asked all those questions. He said, Dad, I'm finally at peace. This is 100% my decision. I'm finally at peace. And today I'm with God. Now, everybody's got their own idea. When he says today, I don't give a shit what your opinion is of that. That doesn't make a difference to me, because in my opinion, he is at peace. Is it the kind of peace that I wanted to see him have? No, because it fucked me up. But in the same token, I loved that boy to the end of the world. I would have chased him to the end of the world to save his life. We have a responsibility to our kids, to our families, to make sure we're there for them, to listen to them, to provide them a safe place to come for someone to talk to. It is your responsibility as a parent to set the example for them to follow. You're never going to get it. You're never going to get it right all the time. It's just not going to happen. But let me assure you of this: it's still your responsibility to try to be your very best, to be the best version of yourself for your kids, for their lives, for your life. And learn to be okay with just talking about, if you've suffered this with a family member taking their lives, learn to be okay with talking about this, as this can really help you heal a lot faster. If you don't feel comfortable talking to friends or family, just go to a therapist. But when you talk to a friend or family, just say, hey, listen, I just want you to listen. I don't want you to respond. I just want to share how I feel. And this is going to make a huge difference for you as far as your ability to communicate and feel this pain, walk through this pain. Don't use alcohol as a crutch. Don't use, and I know people who have used alcohol as a crutch when they've had a child commit suicide. It doesn't serve your higher good. Learn to feel it, because then you can rejoice in all the good things, because you don't forget those good things. Those good things are always going to be there. Now my son lives at home. I mean, I always say he lives at home still. He is 30 years old. He still lives at home. He lives in my mantle. He won't ever leave no matter what I do. But at least now he doesn't eat all the food in the house. At least now he doesn't steal the fuel for the lawnmower or for his car. Is what he would do is he would take the gas can for the lawnmower. He'd put it into his car. When I'd go to put gas in the riding mower, I'm like, where the fuck's the gas? And because he was taking the gas, and he would put it in his own car. I mean, but the point is remember the good things. Remember the good things. Focus on the good things. Focus on the life you have, and focus on the life you have now. Learn to build the best life you have now. Build the best life possible. So we love to talk about this, and sometimes it's hard. Even 4 years later, it's still hard to talk about it. Sometimes I just cry when I talk about it, but that's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay as a man to cry. Don't be afraid to just let your feelings come out. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody says. I know that your life matters. And if you're on the fence about this for yourself, find a way to make your life work. Go see a therapist. Go see a professional. See somebody. Don't give into the war within. That's the key, is do not give into the war within. You are stronger than you probably think. And right now, if you're not, let someone else hold your hand. Let someone else hold you up. You deserve to live. Your family deserves to see you live. There can be a phenomenal life ahead of you. You just have to give it a chance, because no matter how hard it gets, there's always still a chance for it to be better. Love you guys. I know this wasn't about business. This one wasn't, but it was just wanted to share my heart. I was wearing the shirt today, so I thought, well, let's talk about this, because it's a real thing. It's a real thing every day, and I never knew how much of a real thing it was until my own son took his life. It'll break your heart, but you can also heal your heart. It doesn't ever take away the pain, but you can learn to function very well, become so good to other people, and help other people and save their lives. I wish all of you just reach out.